I'm Kevin Power, and this is SaskScapes, the podcast featuring stories of arts, culture, and heritage in Saskatchewan. Welcome to episode 74 of SaskScapes, the very last episode of 2015. So I wish you all the happiest of holidays wherever you are in the world. My guests are Harold Hague and his wife Jan. Harold has been a pillar of the Regina community for decades and a World War II veteran. He was with the Navy and part of the team of very brave men who were minesweepers. There are memories that Harold would prefer to forget, but I'm grateful for those he shared with me during our time together. Regina residents will know Harold for his store Loggie Shoes, part of the downtown retail landscape for years. Harold is now 94 and only recently retired from his business, and his wife Jan has also recently retired from her work. Jan is a phenomenal rug hooking artist. Okay, I just want to get the joke out of the way. Jan tells me she has been referred to as the happy hooker. Those are her words, not mine. I met Jan and Harold at their home, and the whole time we were talking, I was surrounded by what I thought were paintings on the walls. But Jan turned and pointed to some of her work, and I soon realized that what in fact I was looking at was the fine craftsmanship of Jan's work. So fine is the detail in her work that you really do have to look twice to realize that they are not paintings. So, dear listeners, I look forward to sharing more stories with you in the new year, and stay tuned because I have some big news for the podcast series. But I'll keep you in suspense until 2016. For now, enjoy the conversation with Harold and Jan. Here I find myself in Regina on a cold, dreary, damp day in the home of someone who, well, we share a friend in common, Marion Donnelly. And I think Marion told me a little bit about your story about a year ago and said, you have to talk to Harold Hague and his wonderful wife, Jan. And she told me a little bit about some of the things that you have accomplished in the community and your story. And I'm sorry that it's taken this long to line this up, but I'm finally happy to meet you, Harold. And Jan, thanks for coming along for the ride here. So, Harold, let's start at the beginning. Were you born in Saskatchewan?
Yes.
Where were you born?
Harold Hague, Saskatchewan.
Okay, and is that where you were raised, or did you move to No.
My mother died when I was very small. I don't remember. And my dad had sort of found places for me to not board. I was to look after me. I had to be. I was maybe 3 or 4.
Were you an only child?
Yes. From my mother. Yes.
Okay.
But she died, and so I was. And my dad couldn't look after me, so we, in those days things were different. There was no relatives that he had that he could, count on. So, but I did have people, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson from Regina, and were the first ones who I remember, and the famous Grassick people, the Mayor Grassick, way back. They knew Wilsons, and so between the two of them, I was there for a while.
Right.
And somehow or other, I don't know how my adopted parent And Gladys and Albert Hague came from England in 1922 or 3, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to know these people, and they decided that they found me, and so they in their relationship with these people, they felt sorry for me, I suppose. They fell in love with me.
There you are. How old are you there?
I don't know.
You look like you're about 3.
Yeah, about
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
And so they looked after me for a while, and then they decided that they'd adopt me. Period. That's it. No more.
Mm-hmm.
And so my name changed from Ryder to Hague.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And did your dad stay? Did you see your dad during that time?
Not very often.
Not very
Not
often.
as I can remember, no.
Right.
There wasn't a good relationship between my adopted parent and George Ryder.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how long did you live there?
I never left home until the war. The war started, and
so you were there till you enlisted.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right. And how did that? You enlisted and you entered into. In what capacity were you fighting in the war?
I was in the Navy.
You were in the Navy. Okay. And you were with the HMC Cowichan?
Well, I was with the Cowichan. I was 3 or 4 ships.
Okay.
I was on the Cowichan when we went a little bit for the Battle of Atlantic, but I was on the Sudbury, and I was on the Port Arthur, and I was on the P553. And, you go from. I was a signalman. And I had to, I took lessons. They have to train you.
And what's your job as a signalman?
Well, signals. In those days, there was no electrical like what you got now.
Right, yeah.
If you wanted to talk to another ship, it was lights.
Morse code?
Morse code.
Do you still remember Morse code?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Or flags.
Okay.
That was flags and that.
Did they call it semaphore then?
That's right.
That's right. Wow. I remember that from my Boy Cub days. Yeah. You don't hear that anymore.
No, you don't.
Right.
But sometimes I can tap things out just mentally, but I don't. I lost it. It's a rhythm. Yeah, but the reason I got that is I worked for the CPR telegraphs when I was going to school and delivering telegrams and stuff. And
right.
Yeah, and that's how I got into the communications. And then I joined. The King and Queen came in 1939 for a visit.
Hey, it's Kevin. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Just a quick reminder that the SaskScapes podcast is available for free on your favorite podcast app, or you can stream it from your browser. Check out the show notes for the link. On the SaskScapes homepage, you'll notice something new under the logo called SaskScapes Plus. You can't miss it. There's a big button saying support with a heart icon next to it. I'd love it if you could click on that button and help keep this podcast series going. When SaskScapes launched in May 2014, it was the first podcast in the province celebrating arts, culture, and heritage. In fact, you'd have been pretty hard-pressed to find any Saskatchewan podcasts. So I'd like to think that we paved the way. It's been because of your support that this podcast is now in its 9th year. Okay, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the episode. And that would have been King...
George.
Church, yes, George. And
George and Elizabeth, yeah. The King and Queen came.
They came to see you?
Not to see me.
Because he never...
They came to...
He married Wallace.
Right.
They came through the whole country. They come from one end of Canada to another.
Okay.
And so I got recruited. And then, like in school, they went around to some of the older boys, in grade 8 or something, and 7, to join the Regina Rifles and train it, in those days, they had an old-fashioned uniform. And my father was Albert Hague, who adopted me, was in the First World War.
Right.
And so he had memories of 1914, 1918. And he didn't want me to go in the forces or tal, because he had some pretty weird stories, and not good, bad, and they didn't get treated very well either after the war. So anyway, that's that. I joined the Regina Rifles as a communicator, but then you have to train for that, What I was doing was just playing around with the key and stuff at the CPR telegraphs when we weren't working. We were fooling around with keys and talking to each other and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I got into it.
But you would have to train, because your job would be pretty heavy responsibility of communicating when.
Well, you don't go. You see, you take your seamanship training. That's 4 or 5 months.
Where did you do that?
In Halifax. Yeah. And then from Halifax, I went to St. Hyacinthe in Quebec. They had there was an army barracks there that was vacated, and they sent all the signal. They made it a signal school, and it included visual and telegraphy. Okay, it was all SIGs, and that's where I trained.
Right. And when did you deploy to overseas?
When I finished my SIG.
Okay. And you went straight?
No, overseas, no. Overseas, when I'm finished my SIG, when you're finished, you go back down to Halifax and you wait there until such time as you're designated for a ship. A ship wants so many signalmen, maybe 2 or 3 on a ship. And so on. And you wait till and as the ships were coming from all over, but signalmen and that were you didn't rest very long because they were short of community. You had to have a good community.
How many would be on board?
It depends on the size of the ship.
Right.
On Corvette, you need 3.
Okay.
And then you have a senior SIG and junior SIGs.
Okay.
As a rule. But if they were short, sometimes we had to get by with 2. Sometimes we get by with 1. Right. Shortage. So, but I was talking about Halifax. Well, I got there. There was no ship ready at that time, but I worked in the communication office. I was drafted to go there, but I didn't go to barracks. They didn't have any room at the barracks at that time. There were thousands of sailors, and airmen, and army that was loaded, and so you had to find your own way. Like go to the Salvation Army. They provide sleeping on the floor and stuff. Right. But then a lady called Mrs. Dart, and they called her Ma Dart. And she was working in the Salvation Army thing there, and we were, myself and another guy, we were kind of moaning about things. She said, "Well, I'll tell you what, boys. I've got upstairs, and an empty room upstairs, and you can come and they come to our place up." And it was Mrs. Dart, Barbara Dart, and it's up on the hill. I can't think of the name of the section of the city up.
Near Citadel Hill?
Yeah, Citadel Hill.
Okay, yeah.
Go right across.
Okay.
From Citadel Hill, there was houses, upstairs houses around.
You looked out. You were near what they call the Commons.
There was a. Well, anyway, that's where I got.
Okay, all right. So you didn't get to stay in the barracks, and you didn't have to.
No, I didn't.
You didn't have to slum it at the Salvation Army. You went to you went to Ma Darts.
Ma Darts, and she looked after me and my friend and every. So and believe me, that when we left, you would see the buddy that come off the ship. Where we're going to go up and see Ma Dart. We sent you up there. So, it got to be quite a thing. Like when the ship, quite often if we met a convoy escort group coming off a convoy between Halifax and Newfoundland, the escort would be, we have to relieve the escort. Well, when the escort was leaving, they'd be flashing. Now that's between signalmen, not official. We knew they were going to Slackers or Halifax, and the story would get about Ma Dart. There was a time when she had, I think, 8.
You kept her in business.
Yeah, she didn't get no charge.
She didn't charge.
No.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'd buy some meals. We did give her some money,
right.
But not for lodging, and she wouldn't take any money.
Right. You no doubt have very vivid memories of D-Day.
Yeah.
Tell me about your memories. Some of your memories of D-Day.
Well, it's hard. It's hard for me to explain how huge it was. How it was the operation itself was really well organized. No time in the history of the world would be as much planning and organizing for an invasion as that was. And like in Britain, there is about 2 or 3 million between the Americans and Canadians and everything. They had French troops there too. So what I'm saying is to organize that, to organize the timing of the ships. First of all, the minesweepers had to clean the lanes, and then the bigger ships come in from there. But the one thing I want to tell you is that I was on the bridge making a signal back to my ship astern. I was with the 31st Minesweeping Flotilla, 31st Canadian Minesweeping Flotilla, and we were attached to the American 7th Fleet, who were headed to Omaha and Utah. That was where we went. But I wanted to tell you about when I looked. I was on the bridge signaling, and at daybreak, started at daybreak, because we went over it in dark. It was pitch black. Then at daybreak, of course, France came into view, but but looking behind, watching what was coming behind, was no man could describe it. There were, well, you just imagine a number of this, as far as you could see, ships, destroyers, battleships, minesweepers, battleships, and you couldn't. The whole horizon was covered with ships, and they're all designated for a certain spot. Now, and timed. And, the timing, and we had a rough sea too.
Right. How old would you have been by then?
I don't know, I was 20, about 18, I don't know, 19.
Did you have time to be terrified? Were you frightened?
Oh yeah, well, of course I got frightened a lot before that.
Yeah.
But it's not scary. We knew. We were told by Eisenhower. I've got the letter that Eisenhower gave all the ship's company and everything. So we knew what to expect. So when they tell you that only 1 in 5 is expected to come back, well, that's a hell of a toll. But it didn't work out that bad. But
for you?
Yeah, it didn't work out bad for me.
But still, I can't imagine being that young, and your sense of loyalty and duty must override any sense of fear of I may not make it out of this alive.
Well, yeah, you get to accept it.
Right, and as on the minesweeper, you would have been sweeping for mines and then detonating some of them.
That's
yeah?
right. That's what my job was.
How do you do that job without blowing yourself up?
Oh, it's easy. It's not easy, but it's worked out. Like you have all right. We'll say we've got 7 ships, 7 minesweepers, and they all go staggered, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. So, and the minesweeper have large steel paravanes that you drop down a stern and you drag it. Okay, that's the principle of the whole thing. Okay, it's not that easy. Right. The paravanes are set for how deep you think the mines are. Right. Or how and they have cutters on the paravanes. So there's that's a mine. Okay, yeah. And the paravane comes along, cuts the cord. It pops up. Okay. The mine. So the ship ahead here makes sure that he if it's close, the mine pops up. It'll come his stern. So he keeps on going. But that mine, the second ship, has to be careful because that's the mine that's got to be blown up right away. And so they do that. The second ship gets the mine, blows it up. We had the anti-tank guns. And that's how it goes. As the mines popped up, the thickest ship behind you blew it up.
Must have made a wicked ripple in the water.
Oh, well, their mines are pretty heavy mines.
Yeah. But I read somewhere where you had seen bodies floating in the ocean.
Yeah, that was in Omaha Beach. Okay. We went in. Right. We had the 7 ships with sweepers on made maybe a channel that big, but that wasn't big enough. We had to turn around and come back, and come in again and make it bigger. So the bigger ships and more troops could come through. They have to clear those mines. Now, these were moored mines. Okay.
Which means?
They were moored by weight.
Oh, right.
At a certain depth.
Okay, right.
There were other mines, acoustic mines. And we had acoustic gear that let us know that there was acoustic mines. But they were deadly because you couldn't do too much. But we had those anti-acoustic apparatuses. Now, all these things came about after, before D-Day we didn't have such a thing. But the technology that the United States and Canada and England got, their technology just sprung up. Yeah.
Goodness knows what they think of the technology now, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
But that would have been fairly sophisticated for then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, we got...
How do you... I often wonder this when I'm talking, well, I see evidence of it in my father, but how do you deal with being exposed to that much death? Do you have to sort of compartmentalize it and just know that you have a job that you have to do and you just sort of take it in visually, but you don't sort of take in the impact of it emotionally? I mean, does it take a toll on you can you afford to have it take a toll on you at the time? Did some guys crack under the pressure of seeing so much death?
I can honestly say I've never seen anybody crack.
Okay.
Yeah, you get scared.
Yeah.
You depend on each other.
Uh-huh. Right.
When you're a ship's company, or whether you're even in the army or whatever, you have a buddy.
Yeah.
You always have to have a buddy.
Okay.
And the same in the Navy, in the Air Force. It's the same thing.
What was your buddy's name?
Well, I had so many buddies.
Did you? Okay.
Well, there were lots of buddies, but...
was there one that you remember in particular?
Well, it was Drummond and what's his name from Saskatoon? I can't think of it.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody's your buddy if you're
right.
in a ship.
Right.
It's a little different, but even in the Army, it's the same.
Was that little fellow that his father was in the Navy with you?
Yeah.
Leslie Norm or?
Yeah, Leslie. Yeah, Norman.
Norman.
No, Norman.
Leslie?
Jim Leslie. Jim Leslie, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the son was.
That's right. Yeah, he was, yeah. He was a signalman too.
Right.
I mean, I know the signalman, but I don't know all the crew.
Sure, yeah. When you came back to Canada after the war, did you come directly to Saskatchewan?
Well, wait a minute. After the war, when the war was, we were still overseas when war was declared.
Okay, right.
When peace was declared.
Where were you? Do you remember? Where were you that day?
We were at sea.
We were at sea? Okay.
We were minesweeping.
All right. Did you have a big celebration?
No.
No, there wasn't time to celebrate?
Well, everybody cheered. And,
right.
Yeah, but those days, like we used to have rum and stuff, but we had rum. Yes, we had rum aboard, but it was controlled. Like you get a shot of rum a day, provided you were what do you call it? Temperance or grog. You had to grog, temperance or grog.
Okay, right. Surely you got to have a little nip of something the day peace was declared.
Yeah.
That was worthy of a good shot of rum.
Well, we had but it was quite a while before we ever got back to Halifax.
And so that's where you first came, of course, to Halifax. Where did you go from there?
Well, I got on to New Glasgow.
Okay.
I got drafted to a newer ship, a gorgeous ship compared to what we were at. It was brand new, New Glasgow.
So you went right back on another ship again?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we went out workups with Americans. I went down south off of Boston, close to Boston and New York, with the American fleet. They had I don't know, can't remember the number now, but we worked with them. When you say work up, you practice with the ship's maneuvers and fighting and so on and so forth. And then we we heard about the bomb that they had dropped, and then all of a sudden, when New Glasgow came, there was another Canadian ship there. We were ordered back to Halifax. But no, I'm sorry. Yes, that's what I say. See, when I got to Halifax after after the war was over, we came back home to Halifax.
Mm-hmm.
While I was on the ship in Halifax, I got redrafted to the New Glasgow. New Glasgow was a ship, a high-class destroyer, more firepower, more everything, bigger and everything, beautiful compared to it. And then they were earmarked to go to the Pacific, and that's why they drafted several Canadian ships to go and train with the Americans to go around and go to the Pacific, because the Pacific War was still going.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But we nicely got trained in that, and they dropped the bomb, and once we get over, all the Canadian ships got called back to Halifax. So,
when did you return to civilian life, for the lack of a better word?
Well, right as soon as we got home.
Yeah.
As soon as we got in there, everybody got pretty well discharged.
Did you? You didn't stay in Halifax long, though, did
No,
you?
not very long.
Where'd you go from there?
I come home, I guess.
Did you come back to Saskatchewan?
Well, yeah. My mother and father were here.
Okay, right.
But also...
but you didn't meet Jan here.
No.
You met Jan
later
in
on.
Ontario.
Yeah.
Right.
He was married before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's silly for me to ask you if those memories of the war still haunt you, because I know the answer is yes. I know that they never leave you.
Well, sometimes, when you get down a little bit, but life gives you a kick in the ass.
Right. But you can't help but feel a sense of guilt on some level that you came home alive and so many didn't, yeah?
Well, that's the story. Sometimes you meet I know in the community, if you get to know somebody, or you were in the Navy or you were in the Army, how come you came back and my son didn't?
Yeah. How do you answer that question?
You don't.
Yeah, change the subject
you leave
quickly.
It alone.
Yeah.
That is natural.
Right, sure.
Especially women. That's their first question.
Right.
She loses a mother. A mother loses a
child,
son.
of course. Yeah. Jan, describe to me the circumstances under which you met Harold.
Well, actually, I was working in a display company in Toronto. We supplied store interiors with everything they needed, from hangers to merchandising racks to display material. And Harold came to buy for his store for Loggie's. And that's how we originally met. I helped him.
So you were there sourcing stuff for your store, which was here in Regina.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did it take him to convince you to drag you back here?
I think it was 3 years.
3 years?
Then we dated till he came back and forth.
Right.
And then I moved here in 79. We met in 76.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of thought this was the end of the world at first.
Because this was your first time in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, I didn't visit or anything. I just moved here.
Yes, as with many people in Ontario, the world begins at one side of the province and ends at the other,
And
right?
it wasn't like it is now. You know. Back then, you come from a big city like Ontario and Toronto.
Yeah.
It's quite a change.
Yeah.
But it's grown on me over the years.
Harold, how did you fall into the shoe store business?
Well, I had been delivering groceries and getting odd jobs before the war, and I liked that, and particularly stores. When I went in any store, I kind of had a feeling, hey. And I had, there was a buddy of mine that his father owned a lumberyard, and we were kind of buddies. And then when I left to go away in the Navy, he couldn't get into the forces. He was I had a health problem, so he couldn't join up. So he went down east, and he got a job selling reward shoes, called reward shoes, and like that. And so when I got out, when I went on leave, sometime I would go and see him, and I got the smell of the leather, and he said, like, if you ever get out of the Navy, we'll get partners, we'll buy this, so. And it was a chain, but
it was a chain.
Yeah, reward shoes. Yeah,
all right.
It's a big chain in the east.
Had there already been a shoe store there? Had Loggie's existed before you?
Loggie's was operated. They were in 1907.
And who was? It was presumably named after Mr. Loggie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so he was retiring. How did you come to take it over? Oh, you actually worked there first.
I worked for Mr. Loggie died in 1939. He died the year of the war. The war broke out, I think. Mm-hmm. And he had a gentleman named Bill Childs, who was a sportsman. He had not hockey, but a baseball. The Red Sox and those people he was quite a sportsman and he could be curler. Yeah. But he worked for Mr. Loggie. Mr. Loggie died, so Mr. Childs took over.
Okay.
And Mr. Childs owned it he had owned it when I come out. And then I kind of enjoyed it, Mm-hmm. So Bill Childs said, well, I guess you're safe. You don't have to leave. If you want to work here, you got a job. And that's how it started.
Okay.
You might say the original Loggie came from New Brunswick.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there was part of a family of 12 children.
Uh-huh.
And the original Loggie there's a place called Loggieville in New Brunswick.
Oh, I should know that, being from
And his father he was the mayor, he owned lumber, he owned fisheries,
he was
whatever.
a politician, too.
And this son was kind of a problem child, more or less, so they sent him west.
Oh, is that what they did with problem children? They sent them west?
And that's how the store opened.
They were children.
They were an adult,
Right, right.
But that's the original Loggie.
Okay.
Came from Loggieville, New Brunswick.
Oh, all right. Did Mr. Child?
I bought it from them, yes.
You bought it from him. In what year?
Oh, I don't know.
In the 70s.
Excuse me.
Originally, he went into partnership.
Yeah.
And then he eventually bought Bill out.
You bought Mr.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Mr. Child.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I think that was in the 70s sometime.
Yeah,
just before I moved out here.
Yeah.
And you were selling shoes. You weren't a cobbler. You weren't making shoes.
No,
you were sourcing shoes
just
from
a retailer.
Okay, right. And pretty prime real estate too, right? I mean, you were right downtown here in Regina.
It was a good quality.
Yeah.
Always good quality merchandise.
Yeah. I know that you've seen the retail landscape of this downtown area change radically, and I've read some of your comments on your frank comments on how you think this is the direction the downtown Regina has gone. But you did something very special with the building when you retired from the business. Well, when you retired, your son took it over for a while. Was that right?
Oh, my son was in the business long before I retired.
Okay, all right.
He come into the business. I don't know what year was it.
About 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, he'd been.
But he carried it on after you retired.
Yeah,
But he didn't retire.
You never retired.
Yeah.
You couldn't let it go.
At 93, he retired.
Really?
Really?
Well, how long did the store actually stay open?
About 7 years in total.
The store was 107 years.
Wow.
That's Okay.
All right.
It was started in 1902. 1917 or
Right.
something.
And Jan, did you work there when you came out? No.
I worked, but not there.
Okay. All right. Right. So retirement just wasn't an option for you.
You didn't want it.
It was my life.
You didn't want it.
I had grown. I had so many customers, and it was my life.
Right.
You still would be working if you could.
Really?
The store was open.
Really? You'd still be working if you could, if the store was open?
My son wanted to retire.
All right. How do you feel about that, Jen? Did you want him home?
I didn't retire till last year either.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
Wow.
I retired at 76 and him in 93.
You retired from what had you been doing?
I was in cosmetic business.
Oh, were you?
For one of the big companies, Estee Lauder,
Oh, wow.
for a lot of years.
Right.
And I was in retail many, many years.
Okay.
Back in Toronto, Edens and
Okay.
displays. So we both were really in retail
All right.
and both enjoyed it.
Right. Right.
You know, I really loved what I did too, so I wasn't ready to give up.
Here's a question for you from my brief stint in retail years ago. Is the customer always right?
In store principles, yes.
Yes. What do you think, Harold?
Well, yeah, there's no thinking about it. He's
Okay.
right.
All right.
It has to be.
It has to be.
Okay. All right.
Even if it's wrong.
Because
There are times when it becomes touchy, but you've got to use judgment.
Right.
If you've got a good customer, you know him, and gets a little rangy about something, and the best thing to do is you don't argue.
Uh-huh.
Never argue. Just
that was our profile too. You just take it back, put it out of sight, and,
Right.
and see how you can help them get something that
Right.
more
Right.
to their needs or liking.
How did the decision come to be made to have that space, part of that space, donated to what is now the Creative City Center, Marion Donnelly's baby?
I know.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, it happened because I was involved in that quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had been involved in the art scene quite a bit.
No.
Or just...
Never. I'm not an artist.
But did you donate the space? Is that how it worked?
Yeah. And that's how it started.
Right.
Yeah. She did a job, she performed a miracle.
Right.
Yeah. She did good. And then she was very involved in the university arts and stuff like that. So, we became involved and stuff. That's how it started, actually.
Right.
And when we were going to use we were at that time we weren't in the building. The building that sits there now. Sewing machine was in there. And that's.
You're both getting very teary.
I know. What does it starts me?
No, but I'm. Is it the way you feel about Marion? Is that what it is?
I'd like to express the fact that she is a wonderful girl, a woman.
Yeah.
She put everything together, and she was recommended by. We said,
Right.
Full Marion. And so he had her down at the next meeting. Marion took over.
I hope you're enjoying this episode. Just a reminder that there are several ways that you can listen to all of the SaskScapes episodes. The easiest way is with the SaskScapes app that you can download for free from the App Store or Google Play, depending on your device. You'll even get notifications when a new episode is available. Other ways to hear the podcasts are downloading them from the iTunes Store, Stitcher Radio, or through the TuneIn Radio app. Again, all for free. You can stream the SaskScapes podcasts individually at www.iheartculture.ca. Thanks to all of you who have been writing your comments and reviews. It's always great to hear from you. And now, back to the podcast. You must have felt pretty darn proud when they named the gallery after you.
Oh, yes, yeah. I think Marion she did.
She's just a special
She's a
lady.
special girl.
She is, but with good reason. I mean, you are a pillar of this Regina culture. I mean, you've had your fingers in so many activities. You still remain. So where are you off to after this afternoon? You're off to the Poppy presentation?
Yeah, the Poppy presentation.
Right, and you'll be doing what?
Well, this is a kickoff. The Lieutenant Governor designates us the day, and the provincial command of the Legion, the head office is here in Regina, and all the top officers will be there too.
Right.
And
this kicks off
it's
the
a
Poppy
formal kickoff
of the Poppy campaign.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lieutenant Governor, you and I also share another very, very dear friend of mine in common, and that's Linda Haverstock.
Oh yeah, she's a great lady.
Yeah.
She's a great lady.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she got shafted, but
yes, she did quite an extensive conversation with me. So all the details are out there.
Yeah.
Yes, and she's a very strong person that doesn't pull any punches and has no issue with letting people know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But I dare say she represented this province in the classiest of manners. Yeah.
Never anybody done what she did.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, and a tremendous care for veterans.
Yeah.
Jan, you're crafty. Hooking rugs, I understand.
Right.
How long have you been doing that?
I started in 96.
Do you meet with a group?
We did have a guild here. It's disbanded in the last 3 or 4 years, but...
Tell me they're not called the Hookers.
we were called the Regina Rug Hooking Guild.
Okay. Oh, and, there's a guild.
I've been written up as the Happy Hooker.
Harold Hague and the Happy Hooker.
That's right. And it's just... I actually I've always made things, liked to do, some type of art. And I used to do a lot of needlework. And one day I was looking for something new, and I came across a rug hooking magazine in a drugstore. And I just, literally, it was love at first sight. I have to do this. So I wrote 10 strangers. How do I get started? How do I learn? How do I buy supplies? Where can you buy them? As it turns out, there is no store to buy them. It's done through private teachers, suppliers from their homes. But then I eventually found out we had a guild here. And so I joined the guild just to learn how to do it. And I stayed in the guild and was on there, vice president and president, blah, blah, blah. And we met, every week. And a group of us and hooked together. We didn't have a teacher at the time. Eventually, one of the members started a school. She got her teachers and started a rug hooking school, which we've had several locations out at Echo, the old sanatorium, and Bruno in Munster. One was a nun's place, one was the Abbey, and eventually we've settled into the Cedar Lodge at Blackstrap.
Oh, right.
We've been going there for
beautiful place, huh?
Beautiful. We go there every September for 5 days.
Oh, nice.
And we have 5 teachers. These come in from Canada or the U.S. and women from across Western Canada, often either Ontario or also U.S. sometimes.
Wow, it's an international culture.
Well, we usually average around 60-some people, and we take these classes each day. The food in this place is fantastic.
I hear.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I hear it.
Never had a bad meal. The people there that run it or do volunteer work, they're very, they look after us beautifully. So we love our time there. And so I'm spending time with women doing what I love to do. We all have the same thing in common. So we just take classes in different aspects of it, say doing scrolls or doing geometrics or pictorials.
Pretty tedious work, huh?
Yeah, it's
you need good eyesight for it.
It's not so much that. It's just I draw the designs. I do all the dyeing of the wool and make whatever I want.
It must be
table covers, rag covers, floor.
Look around here. They're
all these pictures you see are all made by me.
Oh, wow.
They're all rug cooking.
Wow. It must be almost like meditation for you, real.
Well, it's, you're
get into a zone.
You're into a zone, and I'm listening to my classical music all day, which I love CBC. And how lucky I am, you know.
Yeah.
I have never had art training at all. I just have a good eye for color, and I can look at anything and draw it. So
I tend to think makeup is an art.
Well, yeah, don't look at it now. Anyway, I just love expressing myself, you know. So I don't have, like, some artists do a same type of thing all the time. You look at it and say, I know that person's work because it's generally very similar, where I just do whatever. So it's very varied, from animals to scenery to people to flowers to...
Do you sell them as well?
I have sold, I've probably sold over 33 across Canada, a couple in the U.S. Through gallery, mostly, sometimes privately.
Do you get commissioned to do designs?
I don't go after commission work. I find commission work, if somebody had something that I thought I would like to do, you know, I would probably do it. But when you're doing commission work, I think you have to do, of course, what they want. They're paying you.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't like this or like the colors, then the joy to me goes out of it. I do this for joy, for me. So I make what inspires me, and if people want to buy it, wonderful. If they don't, that's okay, because I love it. You know what I mean? So I don't stress about it or get uptight if I sell it or don't sell it. So I just do it because I love it.
You guys are both so active.
Well, it's a change in the last year to be home, but I'm enjoying it because I have my art to keep me busy. I think for Harold, he misses the store, the people.
Yeah.
I enjoy the people because I really did love what I did too.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of health issues in the last couple of years, so I'm kind of glad to be home now because I don't have to stress. I'm old school, that I can't be at work, and that didn't help my health issues. So this way now, if I don't feel well, I just go lay down and not worry about it. So I'm enjoying the time with Harold that we didn't have when we both worked. Because you're both in retail, and in my case, I had to work Sundays and nights where they didn't open on Sundays, so you don't often get a lot of time together. Time to get home at night, you're tired. So I'm enjoying this time with him being here. I wondered at first how it would work, because you hear, it doesn't.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
But he likes to get out. I don't feel the need to get out as much as he does, but he needs to get out and see people.
Do you see the toll that the memories of the war has taken on him?
I'm seeing it change more now the last year, so more with forgetting a little bit, but really, considering he's 94, I call him the Energizing Bunny. He's just amazing. Really in better health than I am, I think.
But you don't see the trauma of the things that he was exposed to,
Keeps it pretty much like a lot of them do.
Stoic.
I hear more when he's talking to people, than I ever do otherwise. He doesn't talk about it generally.
Harold, quick question. You've lived these 94 years so far on the planet, and we talked a bit about some of the technology that you had during the war as being pretty sophisticated for that time. Can you think of something that we now have in society that you look at and think, wow, that really serves us well? Like, can you think of one piece of technology that we now have which you could have given anything to have back then?
Being able to fly, comfortably,
travel,
and just the whole world, the whole society has changed.
One final question I want to ask you, sorry, I should have asked you this earlier, I guess, because it's no small answer, but wars continue today, and we see guys come back and women come back from the war absolutely traumatized with what is now very spoken about, post-traumatic stress disorder. I ask my parents this as well. How is it that your generation who came back from the war didn't seem to suffer with the terrible, I mean, we're hearing suicides constantly of guys that just can't integrate back into the war again, into mainstream culture again. Do you think that problem was there as well for your generation? It just, you didn't have an option?
Sure, they didn't have a name for it.
You didn't have a name for
What
it?
it was called?
Shell shock, yeah?
Shell shock, but they didn't pay attention to them. It was hidden. A lot of them took to drinking. They were drunkards. You know, they go from legions, go from one legion to another looking for handouts. But they were, they were branded. Okay. They were branded as drunkards and no goods and sort of.
Right.
And if they got a job, they couldn't hold a job. Well, he's lazy or something like that.
Right.
That's what they faced. No recognition whatsoever.
Right.
They had, and nobody ever said, nobody ever sympathized with a person who had dreams of what happened in the war. Like,
nobody sympathized.
No, I mean,
get over it was sort of, deal with it.
And so.
Do you think it's rather indulgent now, what these guys have?
I think perhaps.
Or is it needed?
I think that it's a different society.
Do you think
they're fighting with more modern equipment? Everything they have is more modern. It's up to date. Warfare.
Because I hear some guys.
Warfare is warfare.
Right. War is war. Yeah.
But as far as wars, nobody wins a war.
Yes.
And to make any veteran or any war person who has been in the war can understand. You taught. When a war is war, you taught the hate. Hate this, hate Hitler, hate this. Hate, if he's a German, you hate him. That causes a lot of problems. And only do you realize. I realized that there was. He died not too long ago. Cliff Chatterton. Mm-hmm. Cliff Chatterton was what all any veterans and returned people, he was their god. Mm-hmm. But he organized a World Veterans meeting, and at that meeting there was Russian, German, Italian, everything, all our Allied forces and all the enemy forces. There was a representation from their veterans, of course. Mm-hmm. And you'd sit across from the table, and you say, he in his pocketbook wants to show you his family, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You realize then that these guys are just like us.
Yeah.
Or I am just like they are. You know what I mean? Right. They had a mother and father, and they really didn't want war, but I guess. But if that was the most. I don't know how could you explain it. It just brings you back down to earth.
Sobering.
Yeah.
Sobering realization that the enemy is actually no different than you.
Yeah. He eats and sleeps.
Right. Puts his pants on one leg at a time, as they say. Yeah. Well,
and then because of the different philosophies and things like that. But in war, it's a strange thing when you how the feeling you walk in a room and you know they're their enemy, and you sit across the table from them, and you show the pictures of your wife and that family, and he's got one too.
And you're just a person.
Or he shows you letters that he got from his sweetheart or something like that. You know, that's how.
Right.
But that was, you know, and that is, you go back in history and how those wars this world was made by wars.
Yeah.
Countries were made by wars, but I don't know what.
Well,
how you know, you get to the point where, like I say, nobody wins a war.
Nobody wins a war. Nobody wins a war, but I think you've won at life. You've definitely won at life. I don't think you've sat back and waited for life to happen. You've been about as active as one can be.
You've won a little extra life. That's right. Yeah.
No stopping yet, right?
No.
Why bother? Retirement's for the weak. Right.
No, but it's you suddenly realize, you know, what is this? Why do we do this? You know.
You think that will ever be answered?
No, I don't think so.
You're both incredible people and an inspiration for how to live life fully, that's for sure. And I thank you both for the opportunity to hang out in your lovely dining room and chat about some of your life. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you for taking the time to come and listen to Harold, because there are few and fewer of them left to talk about.
There are, and these stories need to live on in the voices of those who lived them.
Right.
Thank you, both of you. Hey, thanks for listening. The SaskScapes podcast is created and hosted by Kevin Power for SaskCulture. Funding to the cultural sector is provided through the Saskatchewan Lotteries Trust Fund for Sport, Culture and Recreation. For more information, visit iheartculture.ca and saskculture.ca. You can follow us on Twitter @SaskScapes and @KevinPowerLive. Music for SaskScapes is provided by Saskatchewan-born singer-songwriter Jeffrey Straker. These are our stories, Saskatchewan, and they have no end. So tell me, what's yours?